Thank you, Visantha. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. We're exploring a very important topic about listening and its relevance to religion. But before we go any further, I'd like to ask Colin if he could do an acknowledgement of country for us, please.
Thank you. As a relative newcomer to the country traditionally occupied by the Gadigal and Bidjigal clans of the Eora Nation in the Sydney Basin, I'm grateful for this opportunity to not only acknowledge but pay respect for this country that they cared for thousands of years, for their kinship and culture, which in my experience values relationships more than things. In other words, Indigenous culture often values what is more real, human relationships, over the ephemeral material things. And in my experience also, the Indigenous people have something to say, but not many people listening. And they have a special way of communicating when there's trust. If there's silence, then they communicate. And it can be very deep communication, but you need to be patient. So I believe that the transition of the world from its present fragmented condition to a harmonious and spiritually healthy world community is possible, but only if people adopt spiritual values at the heart of all the great faiths, including the Aboriginal Australian religion.
Thank you. So, just a second.
To the songs of the Spirit, and treasure them with thine own eyes. For the heavenly wisdoms, like the clouds of spring, will not rain down on the earth of man's hearts forever. And though the grace of the bounteous one is never stilled and never ceasing, yet to each time and era a portion is allotted, and a bounty set apart. This in a given measure, this in a given measure, this in a given measure, this in a given measure. Oh, my friend, soul. To the songs of the Spirit, and treasure them with thine own eyes. For the heavenly wisdoms, like the clouds of spring, will not rain down on the earth of man's hearts forever. And though the grace of the bounteous one is never still and never ceasing, yet to each time and era a portion is allotted, and a bounty set apart. This in a given measure, this in a given measure, this in a given measure, this in a given measure. Oh, my friend, listen with heart and soul. Oh, my friend, listen with heart and soul.
Listen, I tell thee, for thy comfort is. Give me thy heart, adore me, serve me, cling in faith and love and reverence to me. So shall you come to me. I promise true, for you are sweet to me. Hindu scripture, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. Jewish scripture, Proverbs 1.
Application and initiative nourish wealth. Adornment and decoration nourish beauty. Suitable activity nourishes health. Good friendship nourishes ethical conduct. Sense restraint nourishes the spiritual life. Honesty nourishes friends. Reciting nourishes learning. Eagerness to listen and ask questions nourishes wisdom. Commitment and reviewing nourish good qualities. Right practice nourishes heaven. These 10 things nourish the 10 likable, desirable, and agreeable things that are rare in the world. Buddhist scripture, Sutta Pitaka.
My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because the human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. James 1:19-20.
Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Christian writings.
When they listen to what has been revealed to the messenger, you see their eyes overflowing with tears for recognizing the truth. They say, Our Lord, we believe, so count us among the witness. Islamic scripture, Quran 5, verse 83.
O my friend, listen with heart and soul to the songs of the Spirit, and treasure them as thine own eyes. Baha'i Writings, Baha'u'llah.
Listen, can you hear the sound of hearts beating all the world around? Down in the valley, out on the plain, everywhere around the world, the heartbeat sounds the same. Black or white, red or tan, it's the heart of the family of man. Whoa, it's beating away. Whoa, it's beating away. Whoa, it's beating away. Listen, can you hear the sound of laughter? All the world around. High in the mountains, down by the sea, everywhere around the world, laughter sounds the same to me. Black or white, red or tan, it's the sound of the family of man. Listen, can you hear the sound of singing all the world around? Walking through the jungle or on a busy city street, everywhere around the world, singing always sounds so sweet. Black or white, red or tan, it's the sound of the family of man. Whoa, we're singing away. 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 Whoa, we're singing away.
Thank you, everyone, for reading and coming tonight. So we have now 2 videos to share, and then we can talk about the videos and just talk about listening in general and practice our skills. So just let me find the other thing. Do you want it that we play the two videos and then we discuss them, or play one and discuss it and then play the other?
I think it might be best to discuss after each video.
Right. And do you have a preference of which one first, Colin?
Well, I just listened to the Simon Sinek one, and maybe that goes first because the other one's better.
Okay. All right. We'll get there.
So listening is not the act of hearing the words spoken. It is the art of understanding the meaning behind those words. You know, when people say you're not listening to me and we simply parrot back the words that they were said, congratulations, your ears work. You know, that is the act of listening. But the art of listening is creating an environment in which the other person feels heard. Now, you notice what I said there. The other person, and I used an emotional word, feels, right? I don't want to know that you heard the words. I want to feel heard. I want to feel seen. I want to feel understood. And that is a learnable, practicable skill. So it's, there are many parts of it. It's things like replacing judgment with curiosity, right? That's a hard thing to do. We're a pretty judgy group, right? To be curious why someone has a point of view. It's creating a safe space for someone to, as my friend Dia Khan calls it, empty the bucket. So even if we find what they're saying just reprehensible, right? You're never going to be able to actually have dialogue until at least one of the parties gets the opportunity to say everything without judgment. And as she calls it, emptying the bucket. And once somebody feels like they've completely said everything, then they're more apt to listen to you. But usually what we do is we defend, or we litigate, or we interrupt. We point out flaws in logic, which is just frustrating. And when you point out some flaws in somebody's logic, because we're all imperfect when we speak, and we all choose the wrong words at various times. And that's not what I meant. You know what I meant, is what we have to say. Well, what if you know what you meant? Then why don't you say what you... You can see how this spirals. But it's things like when somebody says something, you know, and there's really easy ways to do it. Things like, go on, tell me more. What else? And they keep talking. And you go quiet, they feel the space. And tell me more. Go on. And eventually, it's all out. And then there's a safe space for you to respond or and express yourself in a constructive way. But that's correct. We do not teach listening. And listening is the way to create, to build trust with someone. You know, you make someone feel heard, they'll trust you. You know, it is the way to find common ground in opposition, in simple cases in business, but in more complicated cases in national politics or in global politics or in war. You know, why do you know? William Ury, who wrote "Getting to Yes," he talks about the same thing. He goes, "We have talk shows, but we don't have listen shows." He says, "We have peace talks, but what we really need is peace listens." You know, and he who's been at the table at the highest levels of peace negotiations, he said, people show up and start demanding what they want, and that's how the negotiations begin. Nobody starts by saying, so tell me why you came here. There's a great documentary that I recommend to learn this. It's called White Right, Meeting the Enemy by Dia Khan. In a nutshell, Dia is a Muslim woman living in the UK who was trolled by white supremacists to the point where the police got involved because her life was at risk. They told her stay away from open windows. That's how bad it got. The way Dia responded was by moving to the United States and going to meet the white supremacists. And she brought her cameras. I mean, you can see it all happen in this documentary. And basically, she gave them a safe space to feel heard. Now, that sounds mad. Like, why should she give them a safe space to feel heard? They should give her a safe space. Yeah, fine, good. You know, like, it's never going to happen. Dia sits down with these white supremacists and she gives them a safe space to feel heard. It's extreme listening. And I say it's extreme because, I mean, they hate her, you know? They don't just disagree with her. They want her off the planet. And she lets them empty their bucket, as she calls it, and then conversation begins. And because they feel heard, they start to trust her. And as they start to trust her, she becomes a friend. And then it creates this paradox where I'm supposed to hate this woman, but I trust her and consider her a friend. And what you see is one by one, these white supremacists, these diehard white supremacists, start dropping out of the movement because they can no longer reconcile their beliefs with reality. And if it can happen in this extreme environment, then it can happen anywhere. And all that is required for us to cross political divides or disagreements at work and things like that is one of the parties has to learn how to listen. It doesn't even require both parties to learn the skill. That's the amazing thing. And it is one of the most remarkable skills that anyone can learn, the power of listening. Yeah. So the documentary is a great extreme example of what it can do.
So there you go.
Boost your daily nutrition with Sustagen.
Sorry about that. You don't want to listen to that garbage. So, Colin.
Yeah, listening to it a second time, I like it a bit better. He makes some good points there. I just thought before he was talking a bit fast. But he talks about the art of listening being also a skill that we can learn, and he gives some practical phrases. So instead of just itching to say our bit, or just nodding and thinking, haven't they finished yet? We can actually be listening, saying, go on, tell me more, what else? And even allowing a quiet space so that they can fill the space and they can talk, and they don't feel like you're just in a hurry to make your point. And then he talks about how feeling heard creates trust. And then he gave an example of a remarkable case where someone who went to the enemies and just listened to them, and then they started to trust her, and then they changed because of that atmosphere. So I think that happens. That can happen sometimes. But there was one thing he said: when they all talked out, then you might have a space to respond or express yourself. Some people never get talked out. They can talk their whole life and there won't be a space. So yeah, that's probably a different type of issue. I don't think that's everyone.
Yes, it takes a lot of patience, though. And that thing of not becoming defensive, being willing to actually hear it, even when you disagree with something. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that happened to me a couple of times. One with this elderly gentleman who, we were talking about Hitler, and he admired Hitler. And this made me feel like I didn't really want to talk here anymore. I was just getting a bit angry. But anyway, I asked why, and he said because he was a strong leader and he created order. So, okay, so there's something we need in leaders. And then another one was with a neighbour who, in every other respect, we get on well, but he was involved in the anti doesn't believe in climate change, campaigns against vaccinations, all of these sorts of things. And this, I recognized the same sort of feelings in me, but I said, I decided, no, I won't respond. I won't respond with what I want to say. I'll just listen, find out how he came to those beliefs. Anyway, it's much it takes a bit of discipline, not feeling defensive, but just being there to learn.
That's a very important word you just said then too, discipline. You know, it is a discipline to not just respond to our first feeling, but, you know, to teachings we've heard.
Yeah.
You know, to keep them within us, not just our own feelings or thoughts. And that takes discipline and constant homework. You know, that we're reading them, listening to them, and we've got some resources to pull on, because, you know, you just got your own resources, they're limited, but if you can pull on some teachings or some example you've seen, you're more likely to be patient and disciplined in that. Sachi, did you have any thoughts on about listening? Oh, well. Vasantha?
But learning the art of listening is, we need a lot of practice. It's always we are tempted to, for me actually, I'll talk for myself, tempted to give an answer or defend ourselves before we sit and listen. So listening to somebody with a different opinion is difficult. We try to stop them or tell our point of view before we listen to what they would like to say. So it's we have to be patient and listen so that we can understand their point of view, from where they are coming from. In that video, it's even the with the enemy also, they were able to reconcile because of she listened to them. It's a good point. We can take it from that video, so we can make even the enemy's friends.
Yeah, she was very brave, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Colin?
Yeah, I'm reminded of that video that Tracy, you showed last week about the three interfaith amigos, and they talk about their experience. They came together after 9/11 because they realized that there was a need for dialogue and understanding. But their first efforts for quite a while, they were just talking over the top of each other and not listening. And so that was their first realization, that they were listening, and then they had to listen. And then they were able to hear each other and realize that they were all on the same side, like children of God, which reminds me of one of those songs about which we can, if we listen to heartbeats, we're all the same. The sound of laughter is shared all the world around, and the same with singing. So in a sense, I suppose the song was saying that we, at our heart, we're all human and we're all spiritual, and this unity is more fundamental than whatever different beliefs we happen to have at a particular time.
Yes, that unity is there already for us to discover. We're not having to create the point of unity of working out some intellectual theory. It's there because we've had come from a common origin. So it's sort of making the journey to discover our common connection But it was nice hearing those children's laughter in the song.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing this, it's called the Total Reset book by Greg Campbell. And it's really about listening. And it's the Aboriginal people in the Kimberley are calling it the bottom of everything. That unity at the bottom of everything. That timelessness at the bottom of everything. And but you have to listen to sort of discover it in each other. You know, what is it when the things have been emptied out? You know, there is just a heartbeat or that breathing. Yeah.
Another thought. But it went. It'll come back.
Next time, just say it. It's like that sometimes. Jung.
Thank you. I'm talking about listening only, something to do with the languages, because people do have different accents, and especially people who has English as a second language, you see they have different accents. So therefore, when they're listening to somebody, then they have two components. First of all, they think about consonants, vowels, linguistically. The second is the meaning of it, what we call listen comprehension. And the listen have so many types of active listening or passive listening. Attentive listening, or people just sit there and hear. Acoustic. So when students come into oral examinations, obviously they have to have questions. They got to understand it very carefully. So that's what we call attentive listening. And the accents got play very important part in understanding and comprehension of whatever the other party is saying. And it got nothing to do with the heartbeat. Because when you have so much heartbeat, you get emotional. And then that could be a big trouble if you go for oral examinations. So that's how I think about listening, because when we were studying, we always had to go to the lab and we got a hearing device on, and then we started from there. If you come from a foreign countries, then that's a compulsory that you have to do it. And for me, it's nothing to do with heartbeat. Thank you. I'm talking a technical way. You go to the lab, just like all other people.
Right.
Like medical area research or whatever, they use a lab. So here, talk about listening for people who study linguistics and languages. It must be a technique. And therefore, when you concentrated on technique, obviously you only analyze technique and comprehension of what you just listen. But talk about heartbeat is something different. Thank you.
Well, it does, make it, different languages, different dialects, different accents. It means that we have to make more effort to hear and to appreciate that that person. Even when people don't have that English is not a second language, both people, English is the first language, miscommunication can happen so easily. But when English, if someone's thinking in their language, they're translating what they're hearing into their language and then trying to find the words to speak back. It just makes things harder for people, and have to put more effort in for that communication to have happened. But anyway, it's a good point to highlight, Jung, that it's another aspect of learning to listen to each other, to sort of appreciate even what someone is going through, to convey their ideas when English is their second language, or if they're English and they go to another country where English is not the language spoken there, and it's turned around. They're having to learn Hindi or Chinese or whatever. So we have to appreciate each person's journey for excellence.
I just say, like, we just make an example. Somebody went to the church, sitting there, and two priests, two fathers, they explained that they gave out preaching for the same chapter. Just say for the chapter that Jesus went to the mountain to pray. But if one person, if they're born in America, their accent will be very different from the priests that were born in England. Because when you listen to what they explain, some is much more clearer than the other. It depends on how the person, the listener, got trained into the language of American accents or English accent. So that's two different, like, transcript. Because when we study language, we had to do transcript too. And the transcript of American things are very different from the English people. Apple.
Yes.
So different. And if you study French also, and the French language will be coming, and then will be like 3 different accents. Oh, mix. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have some other people have joined us. If you did you see the videos before you came on, or do you have any comments to make about listening? Dr. Morthy, do you have any comments about listening? Can you hear us?
No, man. I am just entered into this, not fully listened. That is why I can't pass some message related to this.
Right.
Sorry. Thank you. I listen. Thank you.
Anyway, it's good to have you.
Sachi, you want to say anything?
Who?
Very nice there, very nice. Very nice, have you put here?
Just go with that, and I feel that what you said was that patience is the important things, even though there are other people trying to say something. Always, if you learn to be patient and listen to them, then your opinion might not be valid reason. And it's always, I have learned that being patient and listening to others is the best way to give your reply to them.
I remembered what I was going to say, Tracy.
Okay, go for it, Colin.
Yeah, it was because the thing we're talking about tonight is the relevance of listening to interfaith dialogue. And I suspect, and I think I've experienced, that when you encounter someone of a different religion, and you already have the idea that your own religion is good enough or even the best, And all you know of the other religion is that, maybe it's doesn't fit in your framework, or maybe there's a lot of superstition or something else. So there's a kind of a prejudice right from the beginning. And that prejudice is not taking other belief systems seriously. So, it's like, yes, I'll talk, yes, I'll listen, yes, I'll learn, but I've already decided that I'm not taking this seriously. It's just got something weird in it. Whereas the principles of interfaith dialogue, which sometimes we remind ourselves at the beginning, is that we're not just listening, but even trying to empathize and enter into the other religion's experience to some extent. It doesn't mean we're giving up. We're just trying to understand a bit better.
We have that openness. Because unless you acknowledge your own prejudice or bias, you can't listen, because that's taking up the space. And it's not only listening to other people's faiths, but even, sometimes when people pray, they're telling God everything, or they're, whatever they, in their prayer, blah, 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 blah. But they're not taking the time to listen to God. How is God trying to talk to me? Because that's that's another way that listening is very important for religion, for a religious experience or journey, to actually listen, take the time to listen to God. And the different scriptures give an indication that sometimes it's an inner voice, and sometimes it's through animals, sometimes it's through trees. Not that you're worshipping the animals or trees, but God uses them. The divine is using whatever, and sometimes it's another person. You might pray to understand something, and then you have a conversation with someone that day, it clarifies it. Or a song comes on the radio.
Yeah.
So
that reminds me, one of those songs was called Listen with heart and soul to the songs of the Spirit. So I think that's maybe what you're saying, Tracy. The songs of the Spirit are not just syllables and sounds. There's something flowing through it. We can read a prayer or a reading, we can read it beautifully, but just the words, or we can sit with it and start to feel what it means. And if it's a revealed scripture or something deep and spiritual, then it starts to talk to us directly, whatever language we speak.
We have experienced what Tracy was saying, that when you pray deeply and you get the answer in one way or other. For me, sometimes next morning I read a daily reading. Then sometimes I get an answer for that, for my problem or my worry. I get an answer in that reading I'm reading that morning. So I'm surprised. So really, I said, okay, God answered my prayer.
You see, to get a listening, skills effectively, then the person should know the subject matter. Just like somebody who come into a conference, sit down, listen to a panel of astronauts. And then obviously they listen very well, but they can't understand what the astronauts talk because the subject matter is different. So to talk about religion, the same thing. If somebody study about Buddhism, then they come down, they can listen and they understand understand Buddhism teaching faster than any other people because they know the subject matter. So therefore, before we went to the lecture, students were advised to do some reading first for recommended readings for the subject matter before they come into the lecture, because otherwise they will waste a lot of time and they will run behind the other students who did some readings beforehand.
Yes, you're sort of creating a sort of, you've got some basis to take in what the other person is talking about. And that's, you know, true for the technical thing, but also when just someone is sharing some difficulty, we should pull on our own experiences to have some empathy for them going through difficulty. It's the same thing, that you need to have a common base with the other person. But, you know, that's what you're talking about, is a technical base within you, that you've done some reading so that you understand the language of what they're talking about, so that it doesn't sound like gibberigook into your head.
Just like, you know, like subject matter like reincarnation, if somebody who doesn't ever understood or read or hear or heard, then you want to talk about reincarnation, obviously, when they come to the conference with your highness monk, and obviously they will say, oh, I don't understand anything about reincarnation. But if somebody like already learned about reincarnation and witness with evidence, like science, like a science study, and then, okay, there's a real thing happening, and we believe in reincarnation, and God have experience also. Because religion is just not only about talking and listening, but also evidence. But with just like in the Catholic Church, when you want to be canonized as a saint, you have to have evidence that you cure somebody, the first miracle, and then the second miracle, and then you get approval to be, you know, blessed to become a saint.
There you go. Sandy, do you have any comments to make? You're muted.
Yeah.
My personal understanding or opinion is, so there is a word hearing and there is also listening. So the hearing, it is the ear is getting that information, whatever you are hearing, and the mind is engaged. So that is hearing. But then there are two other things, focus and concentration. In listening, the focus is there, but the concentration varies. So when the concentration is 100%, it is intent listening. So for example, if we are listening to spiritual texts or, you know, anything of interest, say for example, an academic listening to some, you know, presentation of a thesis or something like that, he is focused and his concentration is 100%. So that is intent listening. That is personally my, and for example, spiritual understanding comes with focus, and if you are listening to somebody's talk, focus and 100% concentration. Thank you.
Thank you. So should we play the other video now?
To know me is to breathe with me. To breathe with me is to listen deeply. To listen deeply is to connect. It's a sound, the sound of deep calling to deep. Dadidi, the deep inner spring inside us. We call on it, and it calls on us. We are river people. We cannot hurry the river. We need to move with the current and understand its ways. We wait for the rain to fill our rivers and water our thirsty earth. We watch our bush foods and wait for them to open before we gather them. We wait for our young people as they grow. The time for rebirth is now. If our culture is alive and strong and respected, it will grow. It will not die, and our spirit will not die. I believe that the spirit of Dadidi that we have to offer will blossom and grow. Not just within ourselves, but in our whole nation.
Deep calling to deep. Boom.
Thank you. It was a beautiful video. It's all about, for me, is green, life, very lively, and happiness, and all these things that come to us by the blessing of God, of heaven, of the rains. So rains was like manifestation that God sent to us, that God look after people, because without water, people will not be alive. And God filled the river with all the rains. And so that, you look at a video, you see it's all life. It's so important, and so, like spiritual enlightenment that you can reach to. But the other things that we had to mention is productivity. I wonder if people can grow rice or crops or grains on that sort of vast land, and people can travel on the river with all beautiful modern boats, speedy boats, expensive boats. So all the young children, they can just use the expensive modern boat and just, navigate them around the river and catch fish and prawns and anything that they can help people, more like an economic, commercial life. That's create me some ideas of economic development, especially in a distant area. New economic zone is set politically.
Okay, thank you.
Miriam Rose, the speaker and the lady in that video, was a primary school principal in Northern Territory and also senior Australian of the Year a couple of years ago. And the kind of communication she describes makes me feel uncomfortable, because I'm more used to situations where at least one person's always talking. Silence is uncomfortable, and yet that's something me and probably my culture needs to learn, is just to be comfortable with silence. And it reminds me of something which I was half involved in Western Australia a few years ago. There was a conference in Onslow, and my sister and brother-in-law were helping to organise it. And most of the participants were Indigenous. And knowing that cultures have different ways of thinking about meetings and time, so Marjorie and Peter drove 10 hours up to Onslow on the weekend before, just to make sure everyone knew about the meeting and what time it was on. And then they drove back 10 hours. And then I joined them a week later, and we went 10 hours up to Onslow again. And the Indigenous friends were nowhere to be seen. They were having a bush meeting, and the bush meeting turns out it went all day. It didn't finish till 5 p.m. And with my Western mind, I'm thinking, well, how can we have a meeting now? The day is nearly over. There's hardly any time left. And how annoying they didn't come to the meeting on time. But in fact, we started at 5 o'clock. It was outdoors under the trees. The sun was getting lower, so it was cooler. There was a lot of silence. And I was probably thinking, wow, now we're really not going to get anything done. But in the space of an hour or an hour and a half, we achieved much more than a whole day of talking could have achieved, because people were comfortable and people were listening, and whatever decisions had to be made, they were made very efficiently. So somehow silence and listening adds to efficiency, I think.
Yes. It takes time. You know how you get an impression about something, then it takes time for it to sort of filter up, and for you to sort of be clear about, when you've met that person and what they've asked you to consider. It takes time. And that's part of, in the sort of the Aboriginal sort of viewpoint, you've got the 2 ears. So you're listening, hearing, but then there's processing time. And we don't give enough processing time before we try to give a response. And, that's the part of the problem when the bureaucrats go in and say, well, we're thinking of this. What do you think? Boom, boom, and we want your opinion now or yesterday. But there's not that sort of respectful thing. Well, what are the consequences of this? What are the ramifications? Everything's got a ripple effect, and it just takes time. Listening takes time. It's sort of the time to actually concentrate to hear the words, and then time for it to sort of, to come processed in the head and the heart, to get a response back. There's quite often I think of a question the day after we've had our meeting for the guest speaker. I've sort of heard them and I've been listening and I think, oh, that was good. That was interesting. I've got no question at that time. But in the following morning, I've got a question. It took all night.
The process.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Your experience is very unique. It means that you do reflection most of the time. Reflection very important. With my experience with the young, the place where Colin described, I think I've been there in one meeting, and I came into contact with a lot of, like, even under 5 years old. So therefore, not much is listening, not much is connection, not much is breathing deeply, nothing of that. I came into the meeting. I think I went with Colin's family just to visit the group. And then I found out the children were like angels. You know, the way they look at you, the way they comprehend, there's only go through comprehension, like more like a telepathy. Telepathy is something to do with the brain connection and harmony connection. And we didn't talk, we didn't listen, no listening there. For me, with the kids anyway, because I was with the children. And they're very friendly. You know, I told you, went through harmony, friendly, happiness, consensus, and perfect, like a spiritual area, perfect. Didn't have any efforts at all, just coming like, normal. And I think the way they look at you, I said, brilliant angels here. You know, you can see they understood everything. Through their eyes, through the look. And they're under 5 years old.
So, does anybody else who hasn't spoken have something that they would like to contribute?
I think that that video they were talking about, listen to our inner self. So that's a silent, being silent and listen to what is coming, what is to listen to our inner self. And that is something we don't do normally. You know, have to sit quiet and listen to what the inner self is saying to us, talking to us.
Yes.
Like the meditation.
When we breathe together, we connect. It's a very simple statement, but to sit together in silence, even for 5 minutes, just breathing. I think we should do it now. What do you reckon?
If we can quiet
5 minutes.
Quiet in our running mind.
Yeah,
That's
just
good.
it doesn't. We just take 5 minutes just to sit together silently. Thank you.
Can I just give a comment on what Vasanta said? Can I?
Yes.
In 5 minutes? Yes, Sandy.
No, just maybe 1 minute, yes. Yeah, because it's a very good thing, listening to the inner self, what she said. Say, for example, with respect to knowledge and education, when you listen to outside lecture or teaching, it is education. But when you listen to the inner self, it is educare.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Hello.
How is everyone? I think we should sit together more often in silence. I do this in another circle, and invariably I just start in my mind, I just start thanking for each person. It just sort of, that's what comes up as I'm sort of, in that space. I can hear the tadpoles outside the window. But this sort of thing of just thank you for each one, just sort of comes up.
The Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers, they practice this. I've been to a couple of their meetings.
I think it's a powerful thing. I mean, we have people from India, and sometimes we have people from Germany and Russia and all sorts of places, just that deep, connecting with deep through our breath, just breathing together. I think it's, it's a very active thing, actually.
I've got another thought about listening.
Go for it, Colin.
So we can't put all the burden on the person who's got to learn how to listen. We can make it easier for someone to listen. We can, speak with kindness, with moderation, be wise about what we're saying and how much we're saying, whether it's timely. But I read a book. I've got a book by Hugh Mackay, Australian sociologist, social researcher, and it's called "Why Don't People Listen?" Have you heard of that one? Has anyone heard of that? Can I read the extract? He's got 6 reasons why people don't listen to us and 6 reasons why they do.
Go for it.
Okay, so this is from "Why Don't People Listen" by Hugh Mackay. People don't listen to us because they know we don't listen to them, or because they sense that we don't even listen to ourselves. They don't listen to us because what we are saying doesn't appear to have any relevance to their own situation, or because we used a trigger word which set off a chain reaction of private thoughts. They don't listen to us because what we are saying represents an attack on their cage. The book describes this imaginary cage which we each have to keep ourselves safe from unpleasant conversations or whatever. And so what we're saying represents an attack on their cage, or because they were expecting us to say something quite different. So that's what they thought we said. They don't listen to us because we talked about us, not them, or because they couldn't see what they could do about what we were saying. They don't listen to us because we just said what we thought and left it at that, or because what we said was overwhelmed by the message in how we said it. They don't listen to us because they haven't learned to trust us, or because they feel intimidated or insecure when they are with us. But people do listen to us when they know that we will always listen to them, and when they know that what we say is a response to our understanding of them. They do listen to us when they sense that we are in touch with our own feelings, and when our message has the integrity of coming from someone who believes it themselves. They do listen to us when they can see the relevance of what we are saying to their own situation, their own values, their own aspirations, and when they feel comfortable about making a response. They do listen to us when all the messages in what we say and how we say it are consistent with each other, and when the message comes to them through the channel of an established personal relationship. They do listen to us when it is clear that we have taken their feelings into account and when we don't ask for too much agreement at once. They do listen to us when they have learned to trust us and when they have the security of knowing that each encounter is a stepping stone to the next.
There's a lot of content in that.
Yes, there's a lot there.
What's the name of the book called?
Why Don't People Listen? By Hugh McKay. When I was reading this bit, people do listen when the message comes through the channel of an established personal relationship. And as we were having that 5-minute silence, I realized I've met most of the people in this meeting. Thanks to Vasantha and Siva having a meeting once at their house, with Pina at a picnic in Sanssouci. Jiva was in Sydney a couple of weeks ago. Sarah I've known for years. And I feel like I know you, Ati, because you've been in meetings a lot, and Marina as well. Belida, haven't met you before, but now we've met. Pleased to meet you.
And another thing I've thought that people don't listen to us because we always try people always try to advise, or they know the answer for their problem, and without listening to what the problem is, try to start giving advice. That's another reason people try to avoid that.
I know two categories of people who have, difficulty in listening. One is the ADHD people who are affected by ADHD because their attention is deficit and their mind is very active in other things, either internal discussion or engage with external things. So that is one. The other one is people who are mentally depressed. So that is what I heard. I read somewhere that these psychologists who do the counseling for the depressed people, they actually let them talk for a long time, so that they come out with all their grievances and what is inside them, and wait for the correct time when in his or her assessment, which time is opportune for telling something, some instructions or guidance to that person. So wait for that moment, and when that moment comes, he or she, that psychologist, advises or instructs that person. So that is the window when that listening is there.
I'm talking about listening. Just say, if you listen to two politicians, you only get to listen to the interests that you might be benefit. So therefore, that like politician A talk about something else, but nothing relevant with your life. So you said, okay, you switch on the other politician who will mention a lot of things to improve your life. So obviously, because of the interest that might benefit you, then you listen to the second person more than the first one. So it's very natural. So that, you don't need discipline or anything in that, because you just hear what you want to hear. And they will tell you what they want to tell you, because they might say, okay, if I talk to this person that way, then I might have another extra vote. So that's the way that we're running, you know.
Did anyone have any more reflections from our 5-minute silence? Did anything sort of come up? I mean, Colin got reminded of that book, maybe. But did anybody else have something that they felt that, well, I'd like to, 5 minutes seemed like a long time, or 5 minutes seemed like a short time. I want to, as soon as this Zoom finishes, I want to get back to breathing silently.
Oh, can I ask you a question? There's something coming up. Talk about listening. You know, the time when Jesus gave a lot of teaching for people, I wonder how many percentage of the people who really listening, who are really listening to whatever he said, or even in the time of Buddha teaching, always we were among the large group, but I wonder how many percentage of people listen to Buddha at that time, or they just only stay there and just hear what he's saying. And they only listen to him, or the historian write something about Jesus or Buddha, and then they started to listen. And then they listen to the historian, but not a real Jesus or Buddha.
That's actually a very valid point, Jung.
I think we can be grateful that for the oral tradition of remembering what you've heard, and because the books of the Bible weren't written down for several decades, so thank goodness people remembered.
Yes. Alida, did you want to say anything about listening?
Just a comment about what Jung said. It is also a valid point about suppose if a person is speaking very slowly, most of the people can listen and assimilate. But if the speech or the discussion comes very fast, and after there is a tipping point, people can listen but cannot assimilate. That is also there.
Now, Alida is frozen. Is there any other comments? Sachi, were you able to hear us? Pina had said that listening to each other is the way, this way is creating a spiritual bond of love and understanding. So thank you, Pina. I hope your sore throat is better by next week.
I think it's so complicated with the grown-up people about listening, because with children, they just develop love and understanding easily, even if you don't know if they listen to you or not. So they are two different matters. Listening to the adult or listening to the children, they are totally different aspects.
And sometimes you don't realize that your children have listened to you until you hear them speak to somebody else. And you think, oh, they were listening. But at the time, we were sort of, are they listening? Anyway, thank you, everyone. If there's nothing else, I reckon that we say good night.